I'm Chuck Johnson, aka kidThunder. Today, on this edition of kidThunder VG Reviews, this will be the first in a take on a multi-review episode. Stay tuned.
kidThunder VG Reviews, where we bring you some of the best of retro gaming journalism. Released in October 2001, here's another hidden gem for the good old Game Boy Advance entitled Lady Sia. Developed by RFX Interactive, who was known for producing license-based titles for the Game Boy Color and GBA, Lady Sia is one of their few original titles. Shout out to Greg Elfers, aka Waxhead Room, a longtime viewer of the show, for donating this game. I have actually talked about it briefly in a pickup video that I've done way back in late 2014. Lady Sia takes place in an unnamed fantasy world where there are three kingdoms that are split and involved in world conflict. A warlock named Gunman used magical powers to create half-human, half-beast known as the Saurus. At the beginning of the game, it starts out with a meeting being held in a room at a castle. Barthes, Sia's advisor, informs her that the Saurus horde is heading towards the castle, heads out to check and see what the issue is until she gets ambushed and locked in a dungeon until she is eventually rescued and freed by a mysterious man to join her quest in restoring order to the kingdoms before the showdown with big boss named Gunman. This game is your typical side-scrolling platformer with action-adventure elements. Each part of the world Sia must go around is divided into a few sections. For the most part, these areas are generally reliant on fighting or acrobatics. Controlling Sia may be a bit on the slippery side. However, the vast majority of the time, it is very manageable. If you try to land on one platform with an edge, chances are that you could slip and fall. Maybe that is just me using the GameCube controller and playing this game via the Game Boy player according to the footage from this episode, but I somewhat experienced similar issues by playing this game on a DS Lite. I'm not particularly saying that the controls are bad, but if you're playing this game for the first time, it will take some time to get used to. Though I can say this verbatim, for a game like this, if you die, you can only blame yourself. Sia has plenty of abilities to her disposal. She has her simple attacks, but other than just that, she can cast spells from her magic ring. The more power she uses, the more damage her enemies will take. When you use your jaded sword, you can perform plenty of combo moves to fend off your enemies. In some stages, Sia can activate switches to go forward to places she would not be able to cross at first. For the most part, I could say the graphics are outstanding because everything is beautifully hand-drawn. I, along with some of the professional gaming journalism sources, believe the developers were trying to go for a more anime-inspired, cartoonic feel. Some of the cutscenes in the game have stellar animation, which for a portable console, it will blow you away. As far as the in-game graphics go, it can be difficult to determine which is a platform and what part is for the backgrounds. If you try to land on a greater height, next thing you know, you end up falling off of the game set. That is why switches in some stages are considered beneficial to get past. Overall, Lady Sia is definitely a hidden gem. The hand-drawn graphics and the outstanding presentation is without a doubt the biggest reasons why you should own this game in the first place. It's fun and definitely worth your time. This game deserves one seal of approval, and I give it a big thumbs up. Released Released in 1990 on the PC Engine and TurboGrafx 16 depending on where you lived, and developed by Hudson Soft and Tonkin House. Our next game up is Blodia for the PC Engine. Over here in North America, it was known as Timeball. The original game was created by Manuel Constantinidis. In this game, you will have to guide a ball along pieces of track by moving tiles like a sliding puzzle. It is definitely something that is indeed a time waster. If you are playing it for the first time, it will look easy at first, but beware, as you progress, the game gets really challenging. If the ball hits an empty tile and the track is not completed, it falls out of play and the game is over. The controls are simple enough, and most likely this is another game where if you lose, that's mainly your fault. There is another track editor in this game and you can play it alone. I really can't say too much about the graphics, it's just very simplistic. However, one thing I can say is the tunes are nice to hear, from soft melodies to some energy driven tracks. This game will definitely keep you thinking. Overall, Blodia / Timeball is a nice puzzle game. It's very unfortunate that this game was literally shot down by critics. Another game you should check out, despite what critics say. I myself can say that I'm nowhere good at this game, but it's very addicting, and I give it a thumbs up. Released sometime between late 2014 and early 2015, here's Zombie Incident for the Nintendo 3DS, developed by independent studio Coder Child. The story starts off with Hamarita, a citadel becoming the center of human sin, aka the 7 deadly sins, which is mentioned in the introduction, and everything inside goes completely out of hand in the darkness of the night. It's up to our main character Nana to retrieve the 8 golden stars hidden throughout the complex. When you're thrown into the action, you feel like you can't fend off your foes. However, simply jumping on them will be the most essential. The play mechanics and controls are simplistic and bear similarity to the platform games such as Super Mario Bros. But in order for the enemies to be completely vanquished, it all depends on your attack level. The attack level depends on the color code of each enemy and how many times an enemy needs to take hits. If you look at the map on the bottom screen, for each section of the citadel, it also has color-coded parts, and that depends on if enemies were defeated or not. Green sections represent areas you visited where zombies can be defeated easily, but if it's red, they are unable to, and it will give you a hard time in order to do that process. If there's a blue section, everything is rendered safe, and if you find the white E, that will let you know that all 8 golden stars were retrieved. Audio-visually, the graphics does have a lot of nostalgia value here. It's relatively reminiscent to a TurboGrafx 16 or an early Genesis game. The sprites are well done despite how basic it may look. The sound effects are pretty nice, especially when enemies are attacked, and the music in this game is well composed to set the mood and atmosphere. When I hear the in-game music, it reminds me of hearing an MSX or a Japanese Sega Master System tune, since I do hear a hint of FM synthesis sounds. Zombie Incident is one indie game that is worth playing. It's challenging at its finest, and of course the game itself does make you want to come back for more. It's also worth to mention this game can be highly addictive. You can find this game on the 3DS eShop for around $2. Not a bad deal at all. This game gets a thumbs up. Released a month after the launch of the Super Nintendo in 1991. Next up is HyperZone, developed by HAL, who is synonymous for the Kirby franchise. As far as the plot goes, I really cannot comment upon it considering there is no in-game story whatsoever. I don't even have the instruction manual, but from what I've heard, according to a review from Flying Omelet, it describes about an apocalyptic future which resulted in the vast majority of livelihood around Earth, and folks are on a mission to find a new place called home. Nothing really spectacular at all. It's all about pressing start and jumping right into the game. This game is a typical space shooter game where it follows on rails. You are reliant to stay on the track throughout each stage of the game. The controls are very simple to get a hang of. One button is shooting and the other is braking the ship. For the most part, you're shooting debris and some other objects, which can be a bore fest at first, but in later stages you're treated with other enemies that will come from the rear or ahead of you. Periodically, after completing the stage, there are a few ship upgrades you will get in this game. The ship you first being with is just standard, nothing special. However, the rest of the ships will have the ability to shoot charge shots to oncoming enemies. It's also beneficial to boss battles. Every once in a while, especially prior to a boss battle in every stage, you will see recovery spots, which is beneficial if you need serious repair on your ship. This aspect was probably taken from games like F-Zero. The shortcoming I see with this game is that it's relatively short and is very easy to beat. There are no continues in this game, but that's fine by me. However, it can be worse if you've played Iridium 3D for the GBA, which is very slow paced, and you would easily die on that game. For an early Super NES title, this game definitely demonstrated what the console was capable of rendering at the time. It definitely handled the usage of Mode 7 very well. The graphics does take its cues from F-Zero, which also utilized Mode 7. The music in this game is a bit repetitive, but at the same time funky. The sound effects are also decent, but that annoying buzzer when you are low on shields can go f*** itself. Overall, HyperZone for the Super NES is a unique game, but at the same time it does feel more or less like a tech demo rather than an actual game itself. It's not bad but redundant, and if anything, this is what Super Nintendo owners had to resort to since Star Fox wasn't available by then. If space shooters are your thing, I pretty much would suggest you get it. Otherwise, this is the game where you might want to be hesitant upon due to the lacking challenge and its short length, even though it is pretty cheap on the market right now. Released in the fall of 1999, our last game review for this episode will be Rising Zan, the Samurai Gunman, developed by UEP Systems, the same team who was known for the Cool Border series. Unfortunately, this game was not well received by too many sources, but the good news is that it had a cult following, considering this game has become a forgotten PS1 classic. You are Zan, who was originally named Johnny, considering the theme song's title is named Johnny No More. The story takes place in the Wild West, where Johnny had a dream of being a hero and nobody would stop him. He is a master of wielding a blade and his pistol. Moments later, he returns to his hometown and adheres to his new name, Zan. The theme music also tells the story in a nutshell, and at the end of each stage, the coda of the theme song plays. Fun fact, the story of this game was narrated by known actor and voiceover artist Terry McGovern.
Incident at the ravine with Suzuki in hopes that Suzuki would teach him Zapangu's legendary fighting technique.
It's time to go all out and kick some serious ass while armed with a katana, Demon Slayer, and a 6-shooter, Johnny No More. While you are on your mission to be a great hero of your town, nobody can withstand how badass you are. The controls are decent enough and easy to grasp. Sometimes the moves can be a bit sluggish to pull off, resulting in cheaper hits being taken. However, it's up to you to master. There are a handful of special attacks you can perform towards enemies as well. Also, if you attack enemies and or rescue hostages throughout the game, hero points, which is the gauge that is indicated at the top left of the screen, will be built up, and once you use them, you're definitely in it to unleash all the hell upon your foes. The visuals are pretty standard for PS1, and it's nothing much to complain or even comment about. The draw distances are decent enough to see what is going on. The in-game character speech sounds will kind of remind you of the dialogue sounds from Banjo-Kazooie, but in the cutscenes, normal speech is obviously delivered. While I can say that the voice acting is not the best I've heard in a video game, but it's a pass. Overall, Rising Zan for the PlayStation 1 is definitely an underrated classic that should have gotten more attention and or the credit that it definitely deserved. It's pretty fun to play, and it doesn't get boring at all. This game definitely gets a thumbs up and a seal of approval.
That'll do it for this episode of kidThunder VG Reviews. I am Chuck Johnson, a.k.a. kidThunder, signing off. Take care. Stay tuned for future content. Please like, favor, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to like me on Facebook at kidThunder. And please support my music page at kidthunder.bandcamp.com.